Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to all my Muslim students. Hi everyone. Today we are going to continue with the measurement for the underground drainage. You can download the PDF form in the Blackboard, and I will share this recording to you in the Blackboard as well. Okay, so this is our next topic, the continuity from the measurement for the drainage that we have done before. So this is the second category. We call this one as underground drainage. So every time you see the word UG, then you should know that this is part of the measurement. UG stands for underground. Right, this is supposed to be measurement. I think this is the error in the formatting for the board. So before we start, let's look at the learning outcome. Okay, for this topic, we have to take note that there are a few things that must be prepared earlier before we prepare taking off list. Okay, so how we would like to prepare the taking off list? We have to refer to the detailed drawing. There are two details that must be prepared, that must be referred. Number one, details of the underground drainage itself. Number two, you have to prepare the layout plan. Okay, then only you are able to prepare at least the interface of your item to be measured or taking off list. But in order to prepare the detailed taking off list, you must be able to prepare the schedule for the underground drainage. Then this schedule will be given with the guided quantity, with the guided information after this. After that, when you prepare the schedule, you prepare taking off list, then only you are able to prepare the quantities. So the tasks that need to be completed based on this topic are divided into two. Number one, you have to prepare the underground drainage measurement. Number two, you have to prepare the measurement for access point. The access point that we have to prepare for this measurement is mainly focusing on the manhole. So the drawing that you have to refer is drawing number 20 until drawing number 23, the last part of the drawing. Right, before we go for the detail, there are a few terms that I just would like to recap so that you understand that this sewer or this drainage are meant for which category of the water to be measured, okay, to be measured for to carry this kind of water. For example, the first terminology that you will see is the wastewater. So in this measurement, you will see that what kind of the pipe used to convey the wastewater. Okay, so wastewater is any water that has been adversely affected by quality of anthropogenic influence. And wastewater normally not contaminated with water, not contaminated with urine. We can see the wastewater as a big family. Right? The wastewater meant for the building is referring to the water come from pavement, the water come from kitchen sink, and the water that is really not contaminated with urine. Contaminated means not polluted with urine, means it is not smelly. Okay, it is normally most common usage refers to the municipal wastewater, maybe consists of the spectrum of the contamination, but in the perspective of the building, wastewater is not contaminated with urine. So these are the example of the photo show the wastewater. Number two, sewage. Sewage. Okay, so the term sewage is correctly mean the subset of the wastewater. But when we talk about sewage, this is contaminated with urine. When you see the example of the sewage, this include the domestic or maybe industrial or maybe liquid waste product or maybe something that had been seen in the toilet bowl. That is for you to easily understand. Okay, sometimes the physical, we consider this one also as the physical infrastructure that include the pipe, the screen, the channel that is related to with the sewage. If we combine all of this, then we call this one as the sewerage system. Okay, so sewage is not a system, but sewage is a subset of the wastewater. In the building terminology, we call this one as the sewage in the toilet bowl. Okay, in understanding the terminology in the building. Okay. Then another term that you must be able to take note is the term sewer. It is an artificial conduit, or we call this one as a pipe system or a system of the conduit used to carry and remove the sewage. Okay, remove and carry, or we can say that this is the pipe that used to convey the wastewater or used to convey the sewage. to provide the drainage. Okay, it is a system. Sewer is a system. Sometimes we call this one a sewerage system. Wastewater from a building to a public sewer drain into a system of the sewer and the pipe that ends at the sewage treatment. So normally at the end of the station where this water is conveyed is the sewerage treatment plant or sewage treatment plant. So this is something that you can see at the cover of the manhole. Okay, this is what is the cross section inside. You can see the water is here, and this is the pipe work, and this is the example of the big pipe work system for the sewerage. Okay, this is something that you all always see, the term that you have to be familiar with because you are going to measure the manhole. Okay, manhole is one example of the access point. It is also known as the utility hole, maintenance hole, or sometimes we call this one as access chamber. Okay, this is also used to be the maintenance position for the sewer, for the telephone, for the electricity, for the storm drain, and the gas. But normally, what you have to measure in this particular topic is mainly to carry or to convey or to be the station point for the sewage or for the whole sewerage system. It is normally protected by a manhole cover, usually metal, and normally you only can see the cover at the same area of your, maybe the roadwork, maybe at the pavement area, or maybe at the parking area. You did not see what is inside. This is in contrast with the sump. So you must be familiar with this term, sump and manhole. The difference is manhole, you only can see the cover. You did not see what is inside. This one cannot be seen. But for the sump, they are available in any shape, but you can see from the top view. Let's say you are standing here, you can see what is inside. Because normally the sump only being covered with the grill, but the manhole is fully covered. One of the main reasons is because manhole is attached with the sewerage system that may be contaminated with urine, but the sump is not carry the water that is contaminated with urine, so it is not really smelly. Maybe the water from the rainwater, maybe from the pavement area, or maybe from the kitchen sink that is not polluted. Okay, this is the example where you can see the manhole cover, and you can see some component inside the manhole where they have step. The person can go inside and go down if there are maybe any blockage, so they are able to clean all this blockage. This is the example of the manhole cover, and you can see what is inside. And then from the manhole, from the top, you can see there are outlet. There are few outlets from the water. That means they are piped from here, they are piped from here, they are piped from this particular area. So the purpose of this manhole is normally to make sure that the water can flow properly, and if there are any issue with the clogging, blocking, someone can go down and clean all this particular clogging. This is the example for the cross section from one of the drawing. You can zoom in to see the details. Okay, the cross section, it really looks like a small house with the foundation, with the pipe work, with the foundation, with the wall. Okay, and then there will be no roof because on the top it will be covered with something like slab and maybe slab and the cover. Okay, let's move to the other part. This is the detail of the underground drainage. Only one example. You can see this is the example of the underground drainage where it consists of the drain itself. Let me change the color first. You can see the drain itself. This is the drain. Okay, drain to outlet. So what you have to measure is actually this drain. This is one of the item, and you also have to measure what is surrounded, what is actually surrounding of this particular pipe. You can see here the gravel, okay, or maybe granite, or maybe crusher run. This is the example of the covering that they are available in detail of the underground drainage. And the detail of the drain also have been given here for the 6-inch. IN here means inch perforated plastic pipe. So at the end you can see in detail, this is only one example, what kind of plastic pipe. Is it UPVC? Is it PVC? And then perforated means there are holes They are holes. Perforated means holes, more holes. And then you can see here, this is undisturbed soil, or this is the symbol of subsoil. Every time you see this line, you should know that this is the original or undisturbed soil. So that means if you are given the task to first measure the item for the trench for this particular item, you must ensure that you measure until this particular line. Okay, because you should know that this is undisturbed soil or subsoil. So this is the line where we have to stop our level of excavation. And this is the example of the information in inch, but we'll look at this one in detail later, including the drawing. Okay, now let's refer to the SMM rule. Let's refer to the drainage rules in section V. You can see that the rules are almost similar with the rules that you have to measure in measurement for the basic surface water drainage. We can go through one by one. Section V.2, after that V.3, after that V.4 until we go to V.7. So you just follow step by step. But because the information are a bit different, there are few rules that must be taken into consideration. Okay, for example, in order for you to prepare a taking off list for the trench excavation, there are few rules that you have to refer. Basically, I would like you to refer to these two main clauses. Number one, V.2.1. Number two, V.2.3. What is stated in V.2.1? If you look at the detail, you are given with the unit of measurement. That means the excavating pipe trenches must be measured in meter. Okay, so the drain normally trenches. What is the meaning of trenches? Continuous ways of excavating the soil. Okay, so trench is long way of excavation. You also must be able to identify the starting level. If no information given for the starting level, we can make assumption everything start from the ground level. And then the depth range in the increments of 2. Okay, this one you must only be able to get it from the schedule or in your early calculation. You cannot see mention the increments of 2 meter. The word increments here are referring to 2 meter, 4 meter, 6 meter, and so on. So that is the meaning of increments of 2 meter. And then from this increment of 2 meter, you have to identify the depth range. But this depth range is only for the average depth. Okay, so there are three information that must be stated for the last part. Okay, look at this. Number one, the average depth. Okay, you have to prepare the average depth. The average depth must be counted, and then after that you have to prepare the depth range by referring to the average depth. And after that, in order to write down the depth range, you have to refer to the nearest 0.25. Okay, so I give you one example. Let's say you identify the depth from manhole number 1 to manhole number 2. Okay, let's say this is roughly information. You already identified the average between MH1 and MH2. MH is manhole. So in between the manhole, we call this one as underground drainage. Now we are going to measure the first item, that is trench excavation from MH1 until MH number 2. Okay, let's say you already identified the actual depth at manhole number 1 is 1.2. The actual depth for manhole number 2 is 1.3. This is one of the example. So basically, how you want to find the average depth? You have to plus and divided by 2. This is very basic concept. So how much you get? 1.25. Okay, so 1.25. In order for you to write the word depth range, you have to use the word exceeding and not exceeding. Right? When you want to write down the word exceeding and not exceeding, you have to write to the nearest 0.25. So I give you one example. You can write down exceeding 1.00 and not exceeding 1.25. This is very easy because it is already in 0.25 range. But let's say, if you want more example, the depth is about, okay, let's say we already identify that the average depth is 1.67. So how you want to write? You have to write down exceeding 1.50, not exceeding 1.75. This is the meaning of the word depth range. Range means you have to use exceeding and not exceeding, and you have to make sure that the range must be written to the nearest 0.25. Okay, so in order for you to prepare this, you must get the average step that we are going to count later. In number 2, there are 2 categories that you must aware before you identify the taking off list. There are 2 categories of the pipe. If the pipe having the category not exceeding 200 mm nominal size, you can group together. But let's say the pipe is more than 200 mm nominal size, you have to state the size of the pipe. Okay, what is the meaning of this statement? Let's say the first pipe is 100 mm, okay, diameter, nominal size. The second pipe is 150 diameter. The third pipe is 200 diameter. So what you can do, this one can be grouped together because 200 also considered not exceeding 200 mm nominal size. But let's say you have pipe that is 230 nominal size, and another one is 260 nominal size. Can you total up this one under exceeding 200? Cannot, because once it is exceeding 200 mm nominal size, you must state the size of the pipe. So this one have to be measured separately. This one is considered as another item. Okay. Now let's look at the example in detail. This is what I give you one of the example. Also almost similar like what we have done before. Let's say from manhole number 1, manhole number 2, we have the length on plan. This is the scale or LOP. The length on plan is 15.65 meter. Okay, this is the answer of your trench excavation. Very easy. But in order for you to identify this answer is for which category, you have to measure properly. Why? Because in the measurement for the drainage, normally the engineer will give you the information of GL and IL. GL stands for ground level, IL stands for invert level. Okay, so the invert level means the lowest point where the water can sit. Look at this definition. Invert level is the lowest level at which the water can sit inside the pipe. So if you are given logically, let's say this is the ground level, this is the ground level, this is the pipe. If you are given the ground level, let's say 175.00, the invert level given here is 174. This is the reading from the datum. If you learn surveying, then you know that this is the reading from the datum or from the sea level. You see this one is 174. So logically, how you want to get the depth of this excavation? How you want to get this depth? You have to just deduct 175, deduct 174. So the depth for this particular manhole is given as 1 meter. Okay? Now, logically, you have to understand this concept. In the layout plan or in the section for any measurement for the sewerage drainage system, you are given the information of the depth from one manhole to another manhole. But SMM or measurement rules require you to find the average depth. Okay? Why? Because from the section view, you have to understand the concept of the drainage. Let's say this is the manhole number 1, this is manhole number 2. The engineer must ensure that pipe is able to convey the water through gravity without having any pump. So they have to make sure that this point is higher from this point, and from manhole number 2 to manhole number 3 is higher than from the previous manhole. So MH3. This is the cross section of the piping. So if you are given the information of the actual pipe at manhole number 1, actual pipe depth for the manhole number 2 and actual depth for manhole number 3, are you be able to measure the center average depth? Yes, you are able to do so, provided the actual depth for the manhole must be measured. The actual depth for manhole 2 must be measured. The actual depth for manhole 3 must be measured. So after you get the actual depth, then we will find the average depth. Okay, so before we go to the preparation of the schedule, I would like you to take note on the understanding of the terminology. where is invert level, where is ground level. Always remember, if you cannot imagine how the ground level is, just imagine that you are standing on the ground, so that is ground level. Okay, invert level is deeper beside the ground or the subsoil, where this is the invert level, the lowest point where the water can sit. It is like the touching point of the internal diameter of your piping. And when we talk about drainage, we're always referring to the internal diameter ID, or also similar to the nominal size. Okay, please take note on this one as well. Yeah? If you are given with the OD, you should know that this outer diameter. If you are given with the ID, you should know that this is nominal size or internal diameter. Okay, so what you have to write is internal diameter or nominal size. It is vice versa. If you are given with the information of the nominal size, you should know that that one is internal diameter. Okay. Now we look at what you have in your own drawing. Refer to drawing number 20. You can zoom in. Okay, for the purpose of this discussion, let's say I would like to discuss maybe from this point to this point. Okay, in your own studio, you have to measure from manhole 1 until manhole 3. But for the purpose of the discussion today or in the lecture, I would like you to take note on the discussion from manhole number 3 to manhole number 4 for the example. Okay, look at the information given. Number 1, before you would like to prepare the schedule, you have to check whether there are information about manhole in the layout plan. Okay, so firstly, what you have to do is identify all the manhole. So how many manhole you have here? Manhole number 1, manhole number 2, manhole number 3, and existing manhole number 9. So for the purpose of the discussion today, let's say I would like to find the measurement from MH3 to MH9. Okay, so I write again, manhole number 3, manhole number 3 until, sorry, my pen. Manhole number 3 until manhole number 9. Let's say the dotted line is here. Okay, so, sorry, the dotted line had been given. This is manhole number 3. This is manhole number 3. This is MH3. And this one, the small one, is the existing manhole. So when you would like to measure, you have to measure the length from this point to this point. This is the answer for the trench excavation. What we are discussing now is only the first item, because the first item requires you to find the detail category in the taking off list. So we have to find the average depth from MH3 until MH number 9. So you can see here there are information given for ground level, invert level, and the depth. There are certain situations where you are only given with the ground level and invert level, but the depth is not being given. Here the depth already been given. If you would like to check, you can check how the depth is being calculated. 33 deduct 32.26, you get 0.74. Same goes to this one. Ground level deduct invert level, you get 1.5 meter. So the concept is ground level deduct invert level. Then you can get the depth. Okay, let's go to the detail of the measurement in preparation for the schedule. Okay, first you have to make sure that you check the layout plan. Number 2, of course, you have to prepare this schedule. Preparation of this schedule is truly based on detail. You are not being prepared with this schedule in exam, but since the exam is in online open book, you are able to access. But preparation of this schedule must be done according to understanding of the section of detail. Okay, section of the detail underground drainage. Okay, we look at this drawing. Where is your subsoil? Where is the starting point? Is the ground level. Where is the end point? Is this level. Look at this level, the subsoil clay. So basically, how you want to find the general depth. Okay, now I give you one example. Let's say in manhole number 1, this is the manhole number 2. You are given with the ground level as 12 meter. The invert level for MH number 1 is 11. Okay, MH2, the ground level is given as 12.5, and then the invert level is given as 10 point, sorry, this one is supposed to be 11.5. And the second one, the invert level is given as 10.2. Okay, so what you need to do is, you can prepare the schedule and fill up this one. Okay, this is manhole number. So I give you one example. Ground level, here you just fill up 12.00. This one, 11.50. Okay, so invert level for D is 11, and then this one is 10.2. Okay, how you want to get the general depth? 12 deduct 11, so you get this one 1 meter. This one, 11.5 deduct 10.2. So how much you get? 1.3. Okay, but we haven't finished, because when we would like to find the actual depth, we have to get the actual depth for manhole number 1 first. What you need to do, you have to add in whatever remaining from this particular invert level until reach to the subsoil clay. Okay, so here we may identify, because you are given the task scale. So in the studio you have to scale, but in this case, let's say I give you the pipe thickness as 0.05. Okay, so 0.05. So what is remaining after the pipe thickness is the remaining thickness for this one. Let's say I change with a different color in. So from this thickness until the subsoil clay, let's say the remaining is about 0.6. Okay, so this one can be changed, maybe crusher run, maybe in this case is granite sheaf. You can see here the granite sheaf. So the granite sheaf must be added. As long as you add in what are the remaining components after the invert level, that one must be shown in the schedule. So this 1.6. So let's say you total up. What is this one? We don't have any sand blinding, so just cancel it, or you don't have to prepare this one. Then this one is considered as actual depth. So I change to the red color. This one is known as actual depth. Okay, so what you can do, you can total out 1 plus this one plus this and plus this. 1 plus 0.05 plus 0.6. You get 1.65. So this is the actual depth for manhole number 1. Okay, let's do for the second one, 1.3 plus 0.05 plus 0.6. So this one is about 1.95. Okay, so what you need to do is, SMM require you to find the average depth, isn't it? Because this is what you have to write in the description. So how you want to get this one? You have to follow the average depth formula, 1.65 plus 1.95, then divided by 2. This one must be written. So what do you get? Plus 1.65 and divided by 2, you get 1.8. Okay, so this is the average depth. Remember, when you get the average depth of 1.8, what you have to write in the description? Nearest, you have to write to the nearest 0.25. So this is the example. Exceeding 1.75, then you have to write down not exceeding 2.00. Okay, so if I try to write taking off list, you can write down excavate trench for pipe not exceeding 200 mm nominal size. Look at this one. This is 200 mm nominal size. PVC pipe, okay, having the average depth exceeding 1.75, not exceeding 2 meter. And then after that, SMM also write down you have to write in the depth range of 2 meter. So from this range, we can write down not exceeding 2 meter deep. Okay, so normally this one, I highlight again, the category of the pipe, the average depth, and the deep shows the difference in the taking off list. So you have to prepare this one first before you identify the item that you have to measure. Let's say you have 10 manhole. So what you need to do, just fill out all the ground level, just fill out all the ground level, just fill out all the invert level, fill out the general depth, what are the remaining components that you have, and then find all the average depth. Make sure this box is properly measured, because this box must be measured in between two manhole. Okay, let's say you are given here as actual depth of 1.8 meter, and then how you want to find the average depth here, 1.9 plus 1.8 divided by 2. So after you get the answer, you have to write down in the depth range of 0.25 meter. So that is basically how you want to find the category of the depth, as what had been written in V.2.1 and V.2.3. Okay, the answer for the trench excavation is the length on plan. Do not measure the slope length. The answer must be the length on plan. So what are the answers that you can see from this particular drawing? Is from, let's say, I refer back to this drawing, this one. So the answer is 15.65 from outside manhole to outside manhole. So again, remember, you have to find out actual depth in manhole number 1, actual depth in manhole number 2, find the average depth, and write down the average depth in category to the nearest 0.25 in the depth range of 0.25, nearest 0.25. Use the term exceeding and not exceeding. So basically, that is the basic thing that you have to prepare before you identify the item to be measured. So try to do this one again by filling up from manhole number 1 until manhole number 3. Okay, so for manhole number 1 until number 3, your box will be stopped here. Because if you have 3 manhole, you only have 2 pipe. Okay, so logically, this is manhole 1, this is manhole 2, this is manhole 3. So your pipe is here in between. So how many pipe we have? 1 here, and this is the second one. Okay, so that is in logic. Now, if you look at the item that you have to prepare in the taking off list, this is the example. Number 1, not exceeding 200 mm nominal size, but you can see that average depth is 1.25, this is 1.5. So the second one having different category. The third one having another category. So that one shows the difference. What shows the difference? That one must be clearly stated in the taking off list. Okay, look at the last one. Average depth exceeding 4 meter or exceeding 4.25. So always remember to refer to the schedule, or if you don't want to prepare the schedule, you can also do this, but you have to do it continuously one by one. Okay, manhole number 1, what is actual depth? You can also do that, no problem, as long as you show me, but in the proper way, we have to prepare the schedule. Okay, I think there are also students who love to prepare actual depth. So you write down here actual depth, MH1, so you write down ground level, and then after that you deduct invert level, you get the depth, let's say 1 meter, then you put here add blinding 0.05, you get the MH1. After that, you prepare again MH2 in the vertical way. But then if you do it this way, you did not see the category easily. Okay, some students, they can prepare this one and then they add in another column. What column that can be added? You can write down here the category of depth. Okay, so this one you can write down exceeding 0.25, not exceeding 0.5, here exceeding 1.5, not exceeding 1.75. And then here maybe you can write down the category of the pipe. This one not exceeding 200 mm nominal size, this one for 200 mm diameter, or maybe for the third one is for 230 mm diameter. So what shows the similarity? You can group together under one item. What shows the difference? You have to measure separately. Okay, so that is the concept of identification of the item to be measured for the first one. I have to zoom in. Look at the example of the description. The rules also must be referred to clause D.12.9. If you look at this clause again, all the items started from this statement until the last one. You can also copy from the last statement under D.12.9, showing that the item must be measured in meter and no item to be measured for the disposal and filling. Okay, you can see this word this sentence, part, return, fill and compact. This one is actually referring to the filling. All the necessary earthwork must be written in the description, and surplus saw removed from site also included in the description. Surplus saw, surplus means the balance of the saw, remove means disposal of the work, and all the necessary earthwork support must be written in the description. So let's say you are not be able to remember, you can just write down according to what have been stated in the last sentence under D.12.9. So this is the basic clause that you have to refer under measurement for the trench excavation for the service pipe before you go to the drainage under section B. Okay, so the difference between the first one and the second one is only the category of the pipe. The first one not exceeding 2 meter, and also the difference in terms of the average depth. Because the last sentence are similar, you can write down detail. And the third example here show that the maximum depth range is different from 4 meter to 6 meter, and the depth range also different in terms of average depth. Okay, this is for the bigger category. That's why you have to measure separately. So after you finish all the pipe work, you can move to the second item under under V.3. V.3 mentioned that you have to refer to D15 and D16. D15 referring to the measurement for the disposal of the surface water. Look at this example. Look at this example. Okay, D.15 for the surface water. For 16 is to make sure that all excavation free from groundwater. So this one must be compulsory measured for measurement for the underground drainage. Okay, you need this item, so you just have to write down the description. No measurement need to be done. Only write down the item in the dimension column. Right, item number 3, we can refer to section V.5, clause V.5 shall be given in meter. So if you look at the right hand side, this is the example. This is the example of the pipe available to be used for the underground drainage. VCP. So every time you see the word VCP, you should know that vitrified clay pipe. Okay, there are a few examples that you can see here: the straight pipe, the band. Okay, I would like to highlight this one as well, because if you look at your layout plan, from the layout plan, this is manhole number 1, this is manhole number 2, and this is manhole number 3, for example. So from manhole number 2 to number 3, they are bent. Okay, so if they are bent, you have to check whether that band is made from which category, and this is one of the example. Okay, what need to be written in the description for the drain pipe, the kind and quality, the nominal size and method of jointing. So this is the example of taking off least 100 mm nominal size drain pipe. And then if you look at in detail for the example of the description, look at the heading, VCP pipe. Okay, what kind of the jointing, that one must be clearly stated. You can also refer to the type of the jointing in measurement for the drainage in the previous lecture. It said this drainage joint is not being written. You can refer back to the example on what kind of the drainage available for different kind of the pipe. Okay, this one also not be stated, just leave it there. After that, you have to write down the size of the pipe, and then how the pipe is going to be laid. This is the example where the pipe is laid on the crusher run. You can see, maybe I give you one example. Let's say you have pipe work, and then here is your crusher run bed. This is the cross section. pressure run. Okay, and then from the cross section, maybe this one is just fill up backfilling with the saw, excavated saw. So this is going to be measured separately under item number 3.6 under beds, benching and covering. That's why you have to write down MS. MS means measured separately. You just have to write down how the pipe is going to be laid, okay, but you have to write down MS to make sure that contractor know that there will be another price for the pressure run. If you did not write down this MS, the price that the contractor put is including the crusher run and the drain pipe. That is very important. So always use the term MS to ensure that you did not mislead the contractor to wrongly put the price. Okay, this is also the common practice. This is another example for the different type and diameter for the pipe. And then another example is using other than VCP. 100 mm pitch fiber, jointed flexible mechanical joint. And then you can see here covered with the crusher run. The word covered means the whole area is being covered with the crusher run. Same like your detail in your drawing. Look at this, when you prepare your taking off quantities, you can see that your pipe in your detail have been covered with the granite sheath. So you have to write down in your statement or in your description that the pipe is laid and covered with your granite sheath, depending on the detail. The example that you can see from the first one here is where it is laid on the crusher run only, not being covered. Laid means only put on the top of the crusher run, but surrounded is not stated. So if not stated means surrounded by excavated material or just backfill. Okay, so next item is the example. This is the example to show you the photo how the pipe is for the underground drainage system. And then item number 4, beds, benching and covering. Remember, you have to check the detail. In your case, the beds is referring to, the beds is something like this. Okay, so the beds of the crusher run. If covering means it is being covered, so in your case it's covering. Okay, sometimes we have both, sometimes we have one, but benching normally only available at the main hole. This is your benching. Look at this, the triangle. So if I draw again, the benching is something like, the benching is something like this. Okay, this is your concrete bed. So this is your benching, the one that I colored in blue. Okay, so beds, benching and covering is measured in meter. You have to state the nominal size of the pipe to be laid. Okay, and then what is the width and what is the thickness. So in your case, let's say you are given something like this. This is your pipe. What is the width can be scale? I think it's given as 450. And then what is the total depth? Okay, so width and depth or the thickness must be stated. And what is the material used for the covering or beds or benching? Okay, look at the last statement. Formwork shall not be measured or shall be described. Because you can see the word formwork, some formwork shall be deemed. So you don't have to state and you don't have to measure separately. Look at this example, 200 mm thick pressure run bed, okay, 450 mm wide, under 100 mm nominal size pipe. Okay, so this one, it looks like this. This pipe, this is the thickness, 200 mm, the width is 450, and this one had been laid below or under the pipe. Okay, but normally we have to write down under 100 mm nominal size pipe and put in the bracket MS, measure separately, just to make sure that the pipe is not being measured under this item. We have another item for the pipe work. Okay, so this is another example of the description. This is the detailed description. 200 mm nominals, 200 mm thick pressure run bed. And what is the width? Under what type of the diameter pipe? including filling with the selected earth compacted. Why? Because the filling is not going to be measured separately. Look at the word, you can see the word backfill in the excavation. So we did not measure this one, the filling from the soil that have been excavated separately. This is the example of the covering. You can see on the top also being covered with the granite sheaf. This one is the example of the granite or the aggregate. See, the whole thing had been covered. The perforated part had been covered. So this is part of the covering. You can see something laid below that. That one is under beds. Both have to be measured in meter. Okay, so this is the example of the benching. This is your pipe, half round channel maybe, and this is benching. Benching normally made from lightweight concrete. Okay, so under section under section V, items that you have to measure are basically, before we end the first part. Number one, you have to carry out. Before we end for the underground drainage, let's list down. Number one, you have to measure trench excavation. Okay, trench excavation must be prepared according to the schedule. After trench excavation, what you have to measure? Disposal of surface water. Number three, disposal of underground water. So after that, you have to prepare measurement for beds. In your case, you don't have beds, but you have covering. But you have to check the detail because sometimes they are covering and beds. If they are both, you have to measure separately. Okay, and then item number 6, you have to measure the drain pipe itself. So I put here the pipe work. And then item number 7, you have to measure for connection to the main. These one are similar as what have been shown in the SMM. And item number 8 is testing. Okay, so 8 items basically for measurement of underground drainage. Before we end for the first part, I would like you to take note that how you want to measure for the drain pipe. Okay, for the drain pipe, you have to measure according to the schedule. Okay, I give you, let's go back to the schedule. Okay, look at this. The height of the pipe and the length of the pipe, you have to use trigonometry. So what you can do is, okay, give you one example in section view so that you can easily understand. Okay, this is your pipe. Okay, this is your MH number 1. This is your MH number 2. So deeper you have the pipe work, right? This is your pipe. This is your pipe. Okay, this is the length on plan maybe. This is your pipe. How you want to get this pipe? How you want to get the length of this pipe? Basically we can take out the triangle. So if I use another color, you can see something like this. 1, 2, 3. Can you see the triangle? Okay, so the first triangle, the first length is length on plan. So this is LOP. Okay, how you want to get the height? This one is the difference of invert level. Okay, how you want to get the difference of the invert level? I give you one simple example. Let's say invert level number 1 is 12.00. Invert level number 2 is 11.5. Can you see what is the depth of invert level? The difference of the depth for the invert level. So what you can do is 12 deduct 11.5. So the difference is 0.5 meter. Okay, let's say length on plan is given as 15.65. So the length of the pipe that you can measure is 15.65 square plus 0.5 square. After that, you find the square root. Okay, so this is the length of the pipe. Always remember the length of the pipe is equal with the length for the beds, benching and covering. So if I put back the answer here, the length of the pipe is the length on plan square plus the difference of the invert level square, and after that you have to find the square root. Okay, you have to get this one for different type of the manhole. This is manhole number 1, this is manhole number 2, this is manhole number 3. So each manhole, they have their own triangle. And after that, you can total up. For example, the first one is X, the second one is Y. So the difference between the height of invert level in manhole number 2 and manhole number 3 have to be covered, have to be measured again in order to length for Y. Okay. So as the conclusion for the first part, the drain pipe length is similar with the length of beds, benching and covering because it follows the same thing. L of length of the drain. Okay, so that is the discussion for the first part.